You feel it, don't you? That pressure in your spine, that fire in your belly, that deep, restless energy that doesn't come from your thoughts, but from somewhere ancient, somewhere sacred. This isn't anxiety. It's not just energy. It's her, the goddess, the serpent, the sacred force of creation itself, coiled at the base of your spine, waiting for the moment when you finally stop living small and let her rise. She has been silenced for lifetimes, buried beneath shame, fear, suppression, but she never left you. She's been watching, waiting, breathing in the dark, until now. Because now, you're ready to shake off the numbness, ready to burn through the illusions, ready to embody something wild, wise, and deeply feminine. This is not about becoming someone new. This is about remembering the powerful, sensual, divine current you already carry inside. There's a goddess in your spine, and she's waking up. Are you ready to let her rise? Before the world told you who to be, before culture taught you to shrink, before shame was wrapped around your body like a veil, there was only this, a current of power quietly pulsing within you. Silent, sacred, timeless. She has no name, yet she wears them all. Shakti, Holy Spirit, inner fire, sacred serpent. She is the goddess, and she's not outside of you. She lives in your spine. She is not an idea. She is not a metaphor. She is energy, living intelligence, coiled like a serpent at the base of your spine, waiting, watching, sensing the moment you are ready to remember that you were never just a body. You are a temple. And your spine, it is her staircase. You felt her, even if you didn't have words for it. That heat rising through your body in moments of deep presence. That spontaneous shiver in your spine during meditation, intimacy, or stillness. That sense that something powerful is waiting beneath the surface of who you thought you were. That's not imagination. That's activation. The world has taught you to be numb, to disconnect from your sensuality, your depth, your power, to live from the neck up and ignore the sacred technology of your body. But the goddess has never forgotten her place. She has waited patiently, curled at the base of your spine, storing codes of divine remembrance in every vertebra, every breath, every pulse. Have you noticed how your body knows things your mind can't explain? How sometimes you feel a truth in your bones long before you understand it? That's her whisper. That's her guidance. That's her beginning to stir. She doesn't rise because of effort. She rises because of readiness. She doesn't ask for permission. She asks for presence. And when she moves, your whole life begins to shift. This is not about spiritual entertainment. This is sacred embodiment. When the goddess rises, she clears what doesn't belong. She burns through old stories. She purifies the body, the heart, the mind, not to punish, but to prepare, to make space for the real you, the one who doesn't chase light but radiates it. Your spine becomes her temple. Your breath becomes her voice. Your womb, her altar, your truth, her flame. And that's why she's waking now. Because the version of you who used to survive by hiding no longer fits the shape of your becoming. You don't need to reach for the divine. You need to feel it inside you. You don't need to rise above your body. You need to descend fully into it, into the pulsing, trembling, living field where she waits. She is not polite. She is not tame. She is not linear. She is feminine fire, rising not just to enlighten you, but to embody you. And if you've made it here, reading these words with your heart wide open and your spine tingling in quiet recognition, then maybe she's already begun. Maybe she's no longer hiding. Maybe she's just waiting for you to say yes. What is the Kundalini and why is she sleeping? She is ancient, older than the stars, older than the name goddess. Before there was language, before there was structure, before there was form, there was her. The primal spiraling force of life, the divine feminine intelligence of creation itself. We call her Kundalini, but no name can truly contain her. She is the serpent coiled at the base of your spine, not a metaphor, not a symbol, a living, breathing current of divinity. She is your raw life force. She is your bridge between the physical and the infinite. She is the mother of all awakenings and the keeper of your deepest potential. And yet, she sleeps. But not because she is dead. She is never dead. She sleeps because you were not ready. Not because you were unworthy. Not because you were broken. But because this world, this system, this collective story you were born into, it taught you to survive, not to feel, to perform, not to embody, to obey, not to listen to your body's ancient language. It trained you to disconnect from your very temple. And so she waited, not out of punishment, but out of protection. Because once she rises, nothing remains untouched. She doesn't just open your chakras, she burns through illusion. She doesn't just bring you peace, she brings truth. And truth is a flame. It's the flame that says, this relationship no longer serves your soul. This habit no longer reflects your worth. This job, this story, this identity, they are too small for your becoming. And that kind of fire, it can feel like chaos before it feels like clarity. That's why she waits. Because when she rises, she will purify you from the inside out. So, what is Kundalini, truly? She is the latent divine feminine energy that rests at the base of your spine, specifically in the root chakra. Coiled like a serpent, she holds the blueprint of your soul's full potential. The unexpressed power, the intuitive wisdom, the creative fire, the cosmic memory of who you were before forgetting. She is Shakti, the feminine force of dynamic energy, the counterpart to Shiva, pure consciousness. She is movement, transformation, sensuality, chaos, flow, depth, and creation. And when she begins to awaken, she rises upward through the central energy channel, Sushumna, activating and clearing each chakra as she goes, not just to enlighten you, but to embody the sacred through you. But why does she stay dormant in most? Because most people are taught to fear her. The world has feared the feminine for centuries, not the performative, controlled version of femininity, but the wild, intuitive, untamed fire of the true divine feminine. The kind that knows without proof, the kind that creates without permission, the kind that doesn't just awaken, she transforms. And so, instead of honoring her, the world repressed her. Religious institutions called her evil. Mystical traditions hid her behind closed doors. Patriarchal systems demonized her power and reduced it to taboo. And even in modern spirituality, her name is spoken more often than her energy is truly allowed to rise. Because when she rises, she dismantles illusion. She rewires your nervous system. She floods your body with awareness so intense, it can feel like madness. And yet, it's not madness. It's clarity breaking through a lifetime of distortion. Have you felt glimpses of her already? Sudden waves of heat in your spine? Moments of overwhelming emotion that rise from your root like a current? An inner knowing that your body is trying to speak, even if you don't yet understand the language? She is waking, not because you forced her, but because your soul is ready to remember. And you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be a monk or a mystic. You just need to be willing to feel, to make space, to breathe deeper, to honor the movements, the aches, the trembles, the fire. Because the moment you say yes to your own presence, your own truth, your own depth, you say yes to her. And once you say yes, she begins to rise. Not all at once, not to overwhelm, but in waves, in spirals, in sacred tremors. Because the goddess does not rush. She rises in rhythm with your readiness. And if you're reading this, if your heart is open, your breath a little deeper, your spine tingling in response, then maybe, just maybe, she's already stirring. And all that's left is to let her come home. The goddess doesn't awaken like a thunderstorm. She awakens like a tremor in the soul. Subtle, slow, patient, yet unstoppable. Before the flames rise, before the visions come, before the full current of Kundalini floods your body, she whispers. And those whispers become tremors, and those tremors become movements, And those movements shift your entire life. But you won't find her signs in textbooks or on checklists. You'll feel them in your body, your dreams, your voice, your energy field. Because when she awakens, the first thing she touches is your inner landscape. So how do you know when the goddess is beginning to stir? You begin to feel restless without reason. The life that once felt fine begins to feel tight. The roles you've played no longer fit. Your job, your relationships, your habits, they all feel like they were built for someone else. It's not because you're failing, it's because your soul is expanding. You may feel a strange energy building in your spine, especially around the tailbone or lower back. It might feel like heat, pulsing, electricity, or even pressure. This is not a medical condition. It's the serpent uncurling, the sacred force at the base of your being starting to stir after lifetimes of sleep. Have you ever woken from a dream with messages you didn't understand, but that left your body buzzing? Have you ever cried without knowing why, like your soul was mourning something ancient or birthing something new? These are not breakdowns, these are openings. She often comes through the emotional body first. You begin to feel deeper. Emotions rise suddenly. Joy, rage, grief, ecstasy. Not to overwhelm, but to clear. Because before she can rise, she must make space. And that means dissolving what you were never meant to carry. Generational trauma, shame, silence, suppression. Your intuition sharpens. You begin to feel energy in ways that defy logic. You walk into a room and immediately sense its vibration. You begin to pick up on truths others don't say aloud. Your dreams become vivid, prophetic, alive. And then, something strange begins to happen. You feel drawn to sacred movement, dancing, stretching, shaking. Your hips want to move. Your breath wants to deepen. Your body wants to express something that words cannot contain. Why? Because the feminine rises through movement, not theory. And your body, especially your pelvis, your spine, your womb, is waking up. Have you experienced spontaneous shivers, warmth, or vibrations during meditation or stillness? These are not random. They are the first signs of life force returning to your temple. You may also begin to crave solitude, not from disconnection, but from sacred necessity. You pull away from noise, from shallow conversations, from energies that no longer match your truth. You are not isolating. You are preparing for her arrival, for her movement through you. And with this comes a shift in desire. You're no longer drawn to just pleasure, but to meaning, to sacredness, to creation. You feel a pull toward the mystical, the unseen, the ancient teachings, the feminine codes hidden in symbols, rituals, and the forgotten spaces between words. You may begin to feel waves of energy rising during intimacy, not just passion, but something holy. A sense that your body is no longer just a body, but a portal, a living altar of something far more powerful than you were ever taught. And slowly, you stop fearing your own intensity. You stop apologizing for your fire. You begin to embrace the fact that your sensitivity is not a weakness. It is a divine instrument tuning itself back to source. But perhaps the most powerful sign of all, you start hearing a voice, not from outside, but from within. A knowing, a pulse, a presence. She does not scream, she hums. It's time. Time to stop shrinking, time to stop hiding, time to stop waiting for permission. Because when the goddess begins to awaken, she doesn't just rise through you, she becomes you. Your laughter changes, your silence deepens, your presence expands. You begin to remember not just who you are, but what you are. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, love differently, because your body is no longer a cage, it is a throne. And if you're experiencing even one of these signs, she is already rising, not in chaos, not in haste, but in sacred sovereign rhythm. How to prepare the body for her rise. You cannot force the goddess to rise, but you can prepare a temple worthy of her presence. Because when she awakens, she does not ask, Are you ready to understand? She asks, are you ready to feel? Her movement is not intellectual. It is embodied. It is primal, sacred, ancient. And the body, your body, is her gateway, her sacred vessel, her living altar. So if you feel her stirring, the question becomes, how can you make space for her to rise through you without resistance? It begins with slowing down. In a world that teaches speed, performance, and numbness, the first act of preparation is to pause, to come back into your body, to stop rushing long enough to hear the subtle language of your breath, your bones, your blood. Have you been craving silence lately? Craving time in nature, away from the noise? This is not withdrawal. This is initiation. She speaks through the nervous system, not the intellect. So your nervous system must be recalibrated, softened, soothed, not to suppress your energy, but to help it hold more of it. Breathwork becomes essential here. Not forced breath, not performance, but conscious breathing, slow, deep, grounded. The kind that melts armor, the kind that drops you into your belly, into your root, into the sacred now. Because the more oxygen you bring into your body, the more life she has to work with. Next, movement. Not rigid workouts, but intuitive, organic movement. Letting your hips spiral, letting your spine sway, letting your body express without needing to look a certain way. Because Kundalini doesn't rise through control, she rises through freedom. And when your body feels safe to move, to release, to tremble, to expand, she begins her ascent naturally. Have you ever noticed your body wanting to sway during meditation? Or a heat building in your spine when you begin to chant, sing, or hum? These are signs that your body is beginning to open. So honor it. Let it lead. You do not need to understand the movement. You only need to follow it with trust. Then there's the layer of emotional clearing. Because the body stores everything. Old grief, sexual shame, rage that was never expressed, trauma that was never integrated. Before she rises, she often brings these energies to the surface. Not to hurt you, but to free you. So be willing to feel, to cry, to scream, to shake, to let the body process what the mind tried to bury. Your tears are not weakness. They are sacred waters cleansing your inner temple. You can also support her rise by tending to your root. This means grounding practices, walking barefoot on the earth, salt baths, stillness, anchoring into the lower body. Because the stronger your root, the more safely she can ascend. And this is key. Her rise is not just upward, it is inward. You are not trying to escape your body. You are learning to fully inhabit it, to reclaim every inch of yourself as sacred ground. The womb space, especially, becomes a central focus for those with feminine energy. Have you spent time listening to her, placing your hands over your womb and simply breathing into her wisdom? There are codes there, ancient memories, forgotten power, and she, the goddess, is not separate from that space. She is that space, and just as important, clean what you consume, not just food, energy, content, conversations, environments. She cannot rise in a field filled with noise, toxins, and constant distraction. She needs space, purity, silence, devotion, not perfection, presence. And when it comes to sexuality, treat it as sacred. Because Kundalini is not just spiritual, she is sensual, not in the shallow performative sense, but as a holy current of creative life force. She rises most gracefully when your sexuality becomes a ceremony, not something to give away, not something to suppress, but something to offer inward, to be with, to honor, to transmute. This is why celibacy, in some paths, is used, not to deny the body, but to redirect its fire inward, and why sacred intimacy, when held with intention, becomes a portal. But most of all, prepare by remembering that you don't have to do it alone. Connect with community, learn from teachers who carry this wisdom with integrity, share your experience with those who understand the sacredness of what you're walking through. Because awakening her isn't a solo pursuit, it's a collective remembering. Your body is not random. Your energy is not broken. You are being prepared, cell by cell, breath by breath, for a rebirth that cannot be taught, only embodied. And when she feels that readiness, she will rise, not as a concept, but as you. The path of feminine ascension is not a staircase of goals. It is a spiral of remembering. It doesn't move upward in straight lines. It circles inward, deeper, wider, softer, wilder. And it does not look like what you've been taught to expect from enlightenment. It looks like full embodiment, like becoming the vessel of something ancient, creative, and alive. Feminine ascension begins not in the crown, but in the root. It does not begin with visions or cosmic insight, but with the body, the earth, the bones, the very matter that holds your spirit. And it asks a simple but radical question. Can you come home to your body, not as an object, but as a living temple of the divine? When the goddess begins to rise through you, she doesn't bypass the pain. She goes into it, through the trauma stored in the hips, through the silence in your throat, through the tightness in your heart. She ascends by liberating every layer you had to suppress to survive. Have you noticed how your awakening hasn't always been gentle? The feminine path doesn't promise comfort. It promises truth. And sometimes, truth erupts through grief, through rage, through waves of energy that feel like they might tear you open. Because in a way, they are. They are tearing open what was never really you, only what was placed upon you. This is why the sacred feminine path is often misunderstood. Because it doesn't follow rules, it follows rhythm. It doesn't chase goals, it tunes into cycles. It doesn't seek to escape the body, it makes love to it, breath by breath. Ascension in this context is not rising out of form, but bringing divinity deeper into it. It is letting spirit take up space in your spine. It is letting light flood your womb. It is letting truth echo through your voice. It is living so fully in your body that every cell becomes a prayer. This is why many people fear the feminine awakening, because it is intimate. It is not distant or sterile, it's visceral. It doesn't just open your third eye, it opens your entire being. And the more you allow this current to move through you, the more you will notice a sacred unfolding. Your relationship with time begins to shift. You no longer move in constant urgency. You begin to honor flow. You begin to feel what wants to rise today, not what should happen next. Your relationship with emotion deepens. You don't suppress sadness or force joy. You allow all of it to move through you, as sacred messengers, as waves of cleansing. Your relationship with power changes. You stop reaching for control and begin embodying command, not through dominance, but through resonance. You realize, I don't need to force anything. My presence is enough. You may find yourself drawn to ritual, not as performance, but as remembrance. Lighting candles, touching the earth, moon cycles, breathwork, movement, song. These aren't just aesthetic. They are ways to bring the goddess into form. Because feminine energy isn't just cosmic, it's creative. And when she rises, she will want to express herself through your hands, your art, your voice, your touch. Not to impress, but to release, to birth, to bless. Have you noticed how you're beginning to speak differently? How your voice has more depth, more pause, more resonance? It's because the energy rising through you is changing your field. People may feel your presence before you speak. They may not understand what's shifting, but they feel it. They feel her. They feel you, not masked, not edited, but radiantly real. And still, this path requires patience, because she rises in layers. Each time you soften into yourself, she rises more. Each time you surrender the mask, she deepens. Each time you choose presence over performance, she expands. Feminine ascension is not something you earn, it's something you allow. You don't need to become worthy, you already are. You don't need to chase light, you are the light. And as you walk this spiral of remembrance, as the goddess rises through your spine, through your body, through your life, you will come to see. Your ascension is not separate from your humanity. It is the full blooming of your divinity through it. You are not becoming her. You have always been her. You've spent so long looking outside of yourself for divinity, in books, in beliefs, in temples built by other hands. But the truth has always been closer, beneath your skin, within your breath, coiled in the sacred spiral of your spine. You are her temple, not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally, energetically, cosmically. Your body is the house of the goddess, and she has waited lifetimes for you to remember this. She is not an external deity. She is not above you. She is within you. She doesn't descend when you are perfect. She rises when you're present. And as she rises, your body becomes not just a vessel, but a living altar. Your breath becomes a chant. Your movements become a ritual. Your silence becomes a sacred space where her presence expands. But what does it mean to truly live as her temple? It begins with reverence. Not for something far away, but for your own bones, your own belly, your own pulse. It means no longer seeing your body as an obstacle, but as a holy gateway, not something to fix, control, or punish, but something to honor, to feel, to trust. Do you ever feel like your body is trying to speak to you? That the tension in your shoulders, the ache in your hips, the flutter in your chest, they're not random? That's her. She speaks through the body, not in words, but in sensation, in heat, in pressure, in trembling, in knowing. And when you begin to listen, truly listen, your entire inner world begins to change. You stop overriding your needs. You stop betraying your boundaries. You stop silencing your voice. Because you realize that every time you abandon yourself, you close the doors of the temple. And every time you come home, breath by breath, truth by truth, you open them again. To live as her temple means to reclaim your sensuality, not for performance, not for attention, but as a sacred current of life force moving through you. Sensuality is not about appearance. It's about presence. It's how the wind touches your skin. It's how the earth feels beneath your feet. It's how your breath deepens when you close your eyes and feel instead of think. You begin to realize that nothing is mundane. Eating becomes sacred. Bathing becomes prayer. Movement becomes medicine. Because when she inhabits you fully, you begin to see the world as she does, as an expression of beauty, rhythm, and divine intelligence. Living as her temple also means holding yourself with devotion. Devotion to your softness, devotion to your wildness, devotion to your truth, even when it makes others uncomfortable. You stop leaking energy to be accepted. You stop dimming your intuition to be logical. You stop asking for permission to feel deeply, to speak clearly, to say no when your soul says no. Because a temple doesn't apologize for existing. It stands in silence and radiates the divine. Have you noticed that your body no longer tolerates what it used to? Toxic environments feel louder. Empty conversations feel unbearable. Shallow intimacy feels painful. This isn't you being sensitive. It's you becoming sacred space. And sacred space requires integrity. You begin to cleanse not out of fear, but out of love. You eat with intention. You rest with purpose. You breathe with awareness. Because you're no longer living in your body. You're living with your body. As a partner, as a vessel, as a temple. And what happens when you fully allow her to inhabit you? You become a living transmission. You don't need to convince anyone of anything. Your energy speaks louder than words. You become the woman, the being, the presence that shifts the room just by being in it. Not through force, through frequency, not through performance, through embodiment. And this doesn't mean you'll always feel perfect. This doesn't mean the path will be easy. But it does mean you'll never again walk alone, because she will walk with you, inside you, through you, as you. So light a candle if you must. Sing a prayer if you are called. But know this, the most sacred altar you will ever kneel before is your own beating heart. Because the goddess has never wanted worship. She wanted space to live through you, and now you're ready. This isn't just a spiritual journey. This is a return, not to someone new, but to someone ancient. not to an ideal, but to your origin. You were never empty. You were never missing anything. You were always whole, carrying the blueprint of the divine feminine in every breath, in every cell, in every pulse of your spine. But the world made you forget. It taught you to live from the neck up, to worship logic, to fear your depth, to reject your sacred fire. And yet, she waited. Through every heartbreak, through every silence, through every time you said yes when your soul said no, she waited. Because the goddess never abandons her temple, even when it forgets her, even when it tries to silence her. She just coils deeper, breathing, watching, until you're ready to feel her again. And now, you are. Because you are not being broken. You are being emptied of what was never you. You are not losing control. You are remembering that control was never truth. You are not becoming someone else. You are letting her become you. When you feel the fire in your belly, when your voice trembles with truth, when your skin pulses with sensation during silence, when your spine tingles at the edge of surrender, that's her. That's Kundalini, Shakti, the goddess. She's not coming to make you perfect. She's coming to make you real, to strip you of the masks, to dissolve the roles, to melt the cages, to free the voice that was never meant to be polite, only true. And she rises in her own rhythm, through breath, through tears, through rage and rest, through orgasm and stillness, through the spiral of your becoming. Let her rise through your boundaries. Let her rise through your softness. Let her rise through the places you once abandoned. Let her rise through the part of you that still doesn't believe you're worthy of divinity. Because your worth was never in question, only your remembrance. And as she ascends, your spine becomes a staircase of light. Your eyes become windows to the infinite. Your touch becomes healing. Your presence becomes a portal. And your entire being begins to echo one truth. The divine is not coming. It is already here, in me, as me, through me. Let her rise when you're laughing. Let her rise when you're grieving. Let her rise when you're silent. Let her rise when you sing. Let her rise when you make love. Let her rise when you say no. Let her rise when you walk away from what dishonors you. Let her rise every time you choose presence over performance. Because every time you choose to be fully, fiercely you, she rises, not for show, not for others, but because the world needs women, beings, souls, who are lit from within by something real, something the system can't contain, something the ego can't manage, something that burns through illusion like wildfire, something that creates worlds. That something is you, and it always has been. So take a breath, feel your body, close your eyes, place your hands on your womb, your heart, your belly, and whisper what you've always known. I am her, she is me, and I let her rise.